Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. I did a video last week. I don't know, I probably had a mixed reception, especially among the foreigners here in Thailand, where I got pretty upset about the fact that the Bangkok Post just seems to not care at all about restricted occupations here in Thailand, especially how it applies to foreign professionals who are barred from engaging in Thai professions. We've gotten into that in other videos on this channel. Long story short, what are foreigners doing here talking about Thai tax law, talking about Thai immigration law, talking about anything having to do with Thai law? Clearly restricted under the restricted occupations, as we pointed out in that prior video. Now, that being said, I don't know why or for whatever reason, and one thing I had a real problem with that whole thing was, as discussed with actually the person that helps me make the videos here, it was the fact that I thought at first it was an advertorial. It was like clearly sponsored. No, there wasn't any clarity on that. That it looked like that was the Bangkok Post itself putting out an article, which again rankles me no end. But it's also wildly illegal and dangerous for Thailand because, again, if foreigners are sort of allowed to come in by subterfuge and start interpreting Thai law, that could be undermining very quickly. I mean, that could get to the point of being subversive on certain levels, and it's not good for anybody. Meanwhile, the Bangkok Post seems to be doubling down on this whole notion. I thought of making this video after reading a recent article from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, it seems to be an editorial, Open Up Reserve Jobs. Interesting sort of side note here. I found this in the print edition, and then when I went online to get the online sort of counterpart, it was blocking me. I could access the other articles in the Bangkok Post, but I couldn't get access to that article. I don't know why. But, maybe they don't like my opinions regarding their opinions on the issue of foreign labor here in Thailand. I don't know. In any event, again, article is titled Open Up Reserve Jobs. Quoting directly, the recent mass arrest of over 2,000 undocumented foreign workers have spotlighted a pressing issue in the labor market. Let's start with this nonsense language. They're not undocumented workers. They're illegal aliens at best. And quite honestly, look, I don't know if the Bangkok Post is exactly tied into all of this. Who knows? But I'm hearing a lot of this nonsense. You can call it globalist, World Economic Forum, Communist International, or the old Comintern, what we used to call it. A lot of buzzwords. What was it Lenin said? We shall defeat them by slogans. One telltale sign of, quite honestly, totalitarianism or nascent totalitarianism, they always use these kind of buzzwords and they use this terminology that goes against what's actually going on here. Again, at best, we're talking illegal aliens working illegally in Thailand. You can make the argument that the right term for that is called invader. I'm really tired of this. And I want to be clear too. Let me just preface the rest of this video. I've watched my country be destroyed by these kind of policies. I've watched the economy be hollowed out. I've watched the working classes in America see their standard of living dive into the toilet, quite honestly. It's horrible. And now we're going to bring this stuff to Thailand, and people who speak English and can actually read the Western press are going to tell the Thais with a straight face that this is the right way to go. Quoting further, these workers face charges not only for illegal entry, they just face charges for illegal, you mean invading a sovereign nation? Because that's what's going on here. Let's use the terminology correctly. Quoting again, these workers face charges not only for illegal entry, but also for taking jobs legally reserved for Thai nationals, such as travel agents, tour guides, delivery personnel, and vendors. So the invaders want to come in and be treated as if they have all the same rights as the locals, basically. And where have we seen this before? Oh, not possibly mainland Europe or the UK or now the United States, whose border is just wide open to God knows who coming in. Quoting further, as Thailand approaches a full-blown aging society, again, this has constantly been brought up as a cudgel to tell the Thais how they need to change everything because they're an aging society. They're also an Asian society, but they're an aging society, and this is all awful, and therefore you need to upend all your laws, get rid of all the protections of your own people because you're aging, and because you're getting old, you just need to let the hordes of invaders through the gates. It's nonsense. Quoting again, as Thailand approaches a full-blown aging society, the need for labor is intensifying, particularly in industries where jobs remain unfulfilled. So because the Thais listened to the West, who told them 25, 35, 45 years ago, oh, stop having kids, you need to have less kids. Now the result of that is, the chickens are coming home to roost or lack thereof. And what are we seeing? We're seeing problems because of this same nonsense that came from these same neo-colonialist, World Economic Forum, Comintern types. We're seeing problems now because of the solutions they gave to this country some decades ago. And now Thailand needs to upend all her laws and give up her sovereignty and allow invaders to just invade and do whatever they want in the country because we're aging. Quoting further, Labor Minister Pipat Ratchakitprakarn has defended the ministry's position, emphasizing adherence to international labor organization standards and that advocate equal rights for both Thai and foreign workers. Foreign workers have no rights in Thailand. They may have benefits if they're granted work authorization. Thais have rights in Thailand. This is the way it works. This is how it works in nation states. As far as the ILO, wow, neat. An international labor organization. Sounds an awful lot like the old Comintern to me. And that's not hyperbole, okay? Meanwhile, it was interesting. Years ago, a friend of mine who actually worked for the UN once told me anything that ends in O, the head of that organization is treated as if they were a head of state, okay? These organizations are not some philanthropic organization or philanthropic endeavor out there to just help and sing kumbaya with the Care Bears or whatever it is they do. No, they have their own agendas, okay? And those agendas may be at odds with the sovereignty of the nation state of Thailand. Quoting further, this incident highlights the growing tension between the need to protect jobs for Thai citizens and addressing labor shortages in areas where locals show little interest in working. What tension? If the locals aren't interested in doing that job just won't get done. That's how Thailand works. Again, it's based on, they frame all of this under some sort of preconceived notion that we need to be doing something or there needs to be a certain outcome and we're not getting that outcome, so therefore we need to upend all the laws and change everything. But meanwhile, it's fine. Okay, they can't find somebody to do that job. What happens? The rate for labor goes up, which supposedly, or one would think, would be good for the labor market, which I'll get to that here in a minute, the whole hypocrisy of this neo-communist, neo-Bolshevik rhetoric. But leave that aside for a moment. What is the worst case scenario here? There's nobody in the local labor market that wants to go dig that ditch. Well, if that doesn't happen, is that ditch really that necessary? Meanwhile, Thailand has an effective mechanism right now to import foreign labor. It's working pretty well, actually. In spite of, yes, there are some demographic issues associated with the aging of the Thai society, they came up with mechanisms to deal with that, to bring in migrant labor legally and lawfully through Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Malaysia, other places. Other foreigners can come here and get work authorization. They don't just get to come running through the gates and do whatever they want. That's called invasion. Quoting further, in light of rapid demographic and economic shifts, it's time for Thailand to review these job restrictions and align its policies with the current reality. Says who? Whose reality? You just say these platitudinous things to Thailand and then Thailand's supposed to just do what you say? Thailand's fine. Thailand needs to maintain protection of its own labor market. That's what Thailand needs to do, because you know what happens when you don't do that? I can quote Ross Perot, who actually predicted it, and then it happened. There will be a giant sucking sound out of your economy as all the jobs and all the value are hollowed out and destroyed by outside internationalists and World Economic Forum experts and all kinds of nonsense speakers who just come in, hollow out your economy, take the cream for themselves, and move on to the next country they can exploit. Quoting further, but with an increasing labor shortage and heightened competition in various sectors, the country must assess how best to balance local employment opportunities with the needs for foreign labor. No, they need to reassess how best to take care of Thais. That's what the Thai government should be doing, prioritizing its citizenry, not foreigners who look to invade our country and completely flout our laws regarding labor here in this country. Quoting, excuse me. And beyond even that, sorry, when do the Thai people have any affirmative duty to balance anything with foreign interests, especially within our own domestic economy, our own domestic labor markets? Those are in our interests, Thai national interests. There's no balancing with any outsiders on those issues. This is nonsense, Bangkok Post. Why are you espousing this nonsense? Quoting further, 40 jobs are currently designated as quote-unquote reserved for Thai citizens, including 27 which foreign nationals are barred from taking entirely. Good. And then as we talked about, the Bangkok Post just seems to not even care about those restrictions. There are restrictions on foreigners being in the legal services business, accounting, tax advisory. They just flout it everywhere. So what, Bangkok Post? We're just supposed to open our nose as a nation, be overrun by foreigners who are allowed to do whatever they want here? I have watched countries destroyed by this. I have watched the place I was born be just totally hollowed out by these kind of nonsense policies that seem to be designed to destroy the very host that they inhabit. Quoting further, yet loopholes persist. I always love that, loopholes. Nobody ever talks about loopholes when it's going their way. But when things aren't the way they want them, there's loopholes. It's kind of like how everybody talked about when cannabis got legalized. Oh, it's decriminalized. There's a vacuum out there. There's loopholes in the law. No, it's just called freedom. And it's called taking care of your own nation state and taking care of your own people, maintaining the national interest. Those aren't loopholes. Quoting further, as foreign nationals are increasingly operating as independent contractors or employers managing their own businesses in large urban fresh markets, a trend that has blurred the lines on job exclusivity. It hasn't blurred anything. They're just operating illegally. And you try to blur it up by saying it's something it's not. Quoting further, these developments call for a constructive reevaluation of job restrictions to align with Thailand's present-day economic needs and challenges. No, the Bangkok Post is calling for that. Changes in the Thai economy call for the government to maintain the Thai's national interests in terms of policy making. Again, all of this is framed as if this not only should happen, it's the correct thing, but there's also sort of an air of it being sort of a foregone conclusion, an air of inevitability associated with this that just isn't there. Okay, the Bangkok Post is calling for this nonsense. The circumstances in the streets of Thailand are not causing the Thais to cry out, oh, please open the gates and just de-restrict everything so all the invaders and foreigners, illegal entrants, whatever, can come in and completely hollow out our labor market. Quoting further, the root issue here is not simply one of national pride or labor control. Oh, no, that's not the issue at all. What are you talking about? That's just dumb to even say that. That's exactly what this is about. It is about nationality. It is about the nation state. It is about maintaining the integrity of our labor market. Quoting further, it's about responding to economic and social needs with pragmatic policies. No, the root issue here is that foreign invading labor will destroy the Thai labor market. This has already happened in the West. Okay, it's already done. They've hollowed out the markets and basically all of the golden billion, as the Russians once called the West and sort of the Anglosphere. I mean, there may be some exceptions. I suspect Australia has probably managed to maintain some level of integrity in their own internal labor market. But the United States, with its southern border wide open, and Europe with their waves of migrants, look a lot like invaders to me, as well as even the UK, this is already a done deal. Those sectors in those countries where labor at one time could get paid a living wage, that's all been hollowed out. It's all been hollowed out. And again, you get it coming and going too. Huge corporations love it. They get cheap labor. Meanwhile, everybody, the so-called left gets to walk around with platitudes talking about how great they are, when in reality, all they're doing is they're just undermining their own people. Meanwhile, we're kind of seeing the same thing here in Thailand, where they just opened up everything. And look, these so-called digital nomads look a lot like economic refugees in a lot of cases to me. Is this really what we want for Thailand? And then meanwhile, they just come over here and seem to think that they can do whatever they want. They can just completely flout Thai laws, the restricted occupations, those occupations which are reserved for Thais. No, we can just ignore that. No problem. And it's all done under this sort of smug, condescending notion that it's the right thing to do, that what Thailand is doing is somehow wrong or evil. No, she's maintaining her independent sovereignty and she's taking care of her own labor market. It's exactly what she should be doing. Quoting further, the government and labor ministry should consider reevaluating the list of Thai reserved professions. Yeah, I'd be in favor of that if you wanted to add to that list, because quite honestly, it's a bit antiquated. There's a bunch of stuff that is sort of in a nebulous area now that should be specifically and unequivocally reserved. Again, look, I became a Thai. I have the fervor of the converted. You can hate me as much as you want, but I've watched what these policies have wrought in the West. And rot, different word, R-O-T, is what we've seen. That's the result. It's just a fact. I mean, you know, look over there. Look at the income output. Look at the labor markets. Perot was not wrong in '92. It was a giant sucking sound. I remember the working middle class in America vividly. They're gone. Quoting further, this approach would both prevent resentment toward foreign workers. Well, maybe if foreign workers obeyed the rules, there wouldn't be any resentment. Quoting further, and foster an environment where foreign labor can be a complement to local industries. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying, yeah, we want to knock the legs out of the labor market here in Thailand so we can hire a bunch of wage slaves. Basically, quoting further, especially in sectors experiencing high demand and labor shortages. High demand and labor shortages should be benefiting the local Thai labor market the way God intended. That's what should be happening here. That would result in the cost of labor going up. That would result in the working classes, basically the working classes' wage going up. Notice how this communist nonsense works. It comes in with a thesis that seems like it's helping everybody, but the end result is it actually hurts the very people it claims it's trying to help. Well, in this case, it's not exactly claiming it's trying to help the local labor market, although things like complement local industries and all of this language would seem to imply, or at least lead you to believe, they're trying to help the local labor market. No, this will destroy the local labor market. You bring in foreigners to undercut the local labor market, those people can't make a living wage, and then what? We end up in a giant spiraling downward motion, a race to the bottom, if you will. And what's it going to result in? Thais not being able to get jobs in their own country. Thank you, Westerners. Thank you, internationalists. Thank you, World Economic Forum. Thank you, Communist International. We can do without that. Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.